That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Monkey Man, the directorial debut of Dev Patel, which premiered at the 2024 South by Southwest Film Festival right before it's about to be released, courtesy of Universal, on April 5th, 2024.
Directorial debut. What is it about? An anonymous young man unleashes a campaign of vengeance against the corrupt leaders who murdered his mother and continue to systematically victimize the poor and powerless. What's your pull quote?
Although its first act wallows a bit in extraneous, sometimes mundane details, Dev Patel's propulsive debut eventually shifts into a galvanizing ballet of violence underlined by significant traumas and culturally substantial particulars often neglected in action films.
Okay. Mine. Dev Patel shines as actor-director in this stylish, action-packed thriller. You know there's a word limit on character count. Anyway, so the basic plot. We're in India in a big city, and we meet Dev Patel's character who does not have a name. At one point, he tells people to call him Bobby, but we know that's not his name. And he has secured a job at a hotel. And we don't find out until the end what his master plan was. But he's trying to get revenge on the police chief and this political figure who are responsible for the death of his mother. Literally and indirectly, because what happened was, and we see it in many, many flashbacks, that when he was younger, the little village he lived in, this political figure whose name is
Baba Shakti.
He seems like some sort of spiritual guru, but then, and he looks like Prince, but he looks like if you mix Prince and Al Sharpton to me, but he has the essence of like a spiritual guru, but then we see that in modern day, he's running for like some major political office. But we know that when Dev Patel's character was younger, the village he lived in, this person is responsible for like basically taking the land from the people. And the police chief,
Rana,
was the one sort of like pushing everyone out. And unfortunately, Dev Patel's character, his mom, had a confrontation with the police chief. And as a kid, he watched his mom be murdered. So
brutally,
of course, has been traumatized by that. We get zero context of what his life was from when he was a little kid watching his mom get murdered until we meet him in modern day. Except that he does like underground street fighting to make money, maybe.
in which he wears a monkey mask.
Wears a monkey mask. And then to explain the monkey even further, there is some lore about this character named
Hanuman. It's like a monkey deity.
which is basically like a god for the people, maybe. Or like the people look up to this god as like a savior,
But the
of
way
some sort.
the opening moments of the film, it's told like his mother's telling him a story as a child. But the details of this story told in this film, it reminded me of it's kind of like Icarus without the hubris, because
like this little character reaches for like
he likes mangoes and reaches for this big mango in the sky, which is the sun, and eats it, and then is punished by the gods for his deeds.
But getting back to Dev Patel in current time, he gets a job in this hotel because he knows that this hotel in this big city is like a hot spot for the rich and powerful to go to basically like do drugs and have prostitutes. And he knows that he will find the police chief there. So he gets a job, and we can explain it further, but he wiggles his way in there. He makes his way to the area where the police chief would be. And this is like at the halfway point. He attacks the police chief and does not kill him, unfortunately. And we get actually a really well done sequence where Dev Patel's character is being chased, but ultimately he is shot, injured, falls into a river, but is rescued. And this is what I think is probably the most interesting part of the story. His character is rescued by like a group of trans people who
occupy this temple.
And the main person, whose character's name is
Alphonso.
plays, basically like brings him back to health and recognizes that he is suffering from a lot of trauma. So recommends that he goes through like this psychedelic trip to sort of heal. And he does, and that's when he realizes that he needs to finish what he started. And we get like a training montage where he ups his fighting skills, goes back to the hotel.
Before that, we learn that Alpha's group is about to be evicted from this temple because they can't pay the rent. Basically.
We also know that we hear through like news footage in the film that trans people are under attack and the government is not doing anything about it. So it's kind of a significant part of the story. Mm-hmm. So Dev Patel's character goes back to the hotel where not only the police chief is, but now this political figure, and he attacks them and of course kills both.
He prevails. Mm-hmm.
But again, I think maybe my favorite moment in the film, because we're told by Alpha, who's part of the trans group, that in their heyday they were warriors. Mm-hmm. So when Dev Patel shows up to fight, it would seem that he's outnumbered. But then these trans people show up.
Quite fortuitously,
and,
but they do.
Yeah, and they have really cool costumes, and they all whoop ass. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he prevails, and the film just ends.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed this movie. Knowing that it's someone's directorial debut, it's really impressive. But there's a backstory to the production of the film.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a Netflix film, and then, of course, was hampered by the pandemic. I think that I read Patel was shooting off in islands of Indonesia and then injured his hand. And then somewhere in that delay, Jordan Peele saw the footage and thought this was a project worthy of a theatrical release, so purchased it from Netflix.
What did I like? I think the movie looks really good.
It was shot by Sharone Meir, who also was the cinematographer on Whiplash, which you just saw for the first time, and also a John Woo film I really liked last year called Silent Night with Joel Kinnaman. But yeah, the focus on the kinetic focus is, I think, quite effective. Even just how fabric is moving in some scenes and what Meir is choosing to focus on is really eclectic, but eye-catching.
The soundtrack is fabulous.
Mm-hmm. Jed Kurzel did the score, but there are two song selections that I really liked. One is this slowed-down cover of "Somebody to Love" by Jefferson Airplane. That's when the film really takes off, because almost that's why it meanders a little bit almost until that first attack on Rana with the aquarium that's been played over and over again in the preview, and that's kind of this boozy, swoozy version of that song is playing. And then a little bit later, there's a version of Boney M's Rivers of Babylon, which I really like.
I liked Dev Patel on screen. Mm-hmm. I think he's very handsome, but he's a little scrawny to be a kick-ass, because I think an obvious comparison in the film references John Wick.
It certainly does.
In a humorous way. Mm-hmm. But, Keanu, we never see him without his shirt on, so we don't know his physical shape. He looks like someone who's healthy and active. And Dev Patel's character, he is very fit.
Yeah.
But he looks like he runs marathons, not whoops ass all day.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was interesting that we get a lot of his skin in this movie.
We do. It's very David and Goliath-ish, especially in the scene where, in order to secure the money he needs to help Alpha's group, there's kind of a tangential underground fight scene where and that is the only moments we see Sharlto Copley, who's second billed in this, the South African actor from District 9, who Neil Blomkamp likes to use over and over again. I'm assuming they met on the set of Chappie, which Dev Patel starred in.
Yeah. So what didn't work for me, I think, is the organization of the story. I did feel like the first act did sort of lag a little bit. We get a lot of flashbacks that I think are not wholly necessary when we consider that we really don't know anything about Dev Patel's character. We could have spent some time more with him, understanding what he's been doing for like damn near 30 years mm-hmm. since his mom died.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I like this setup in the essence that we don't find out until very late what exactly is going on, because there is quite an emotional impact when you find out what the scars on his hands are really from. It reminded me, in that respect, because I mean, this is a very familiar kind of story. It reminded me of Andrea Arnold's Red Road, in which Kim Dickey plays this woman who's seducing this man to have sex with her that has come back into her life. And when you find out why and what she's really planning to do, that is the impact. To me, that was a similar kind of setup. But getting there, the whole process for the first 45 minutes does feel a bit monotonous.
But overall, since action films are not my like top choice usually, I would say this version of an action film is my preferred. Like, it has heart, it's serious. If I think about something like The Beekeeper,
Well, right.
that just feels like a joke, and it's like we're watching all this fighting and blood, but it feels like it has no purpose. This, it's extremely violent.
It's very violent, and but not more than a John Wick movie. But to me, I think that some of the choreographed fight sequences are definitely on par with the or Atomic Blonde. I thought of as well.
There were many moments where I was a little shook, like, oh wow, like he did that, and so I definitely prefer this version of an action film. I felt more invested in this character.
Yeah, because if you think of the first John Wick was about his dead wife gifted him a puppy that gets killed by this bad guy, and that sets him off on his rampage, right? And this is, once you see what happens to Patel's mother, who is strangled in front of his eyes, and then her corpse is burned, which is why he burns his hand trying to put her out. That is a lot darker than most studio films are willing to go these days.
I'm just going to go quickly through my notes. So Dev Patel fights these underground fights, and then that British South African actor you mentioned, his character's name is Tiger. He's clearly manipulating these people. And I also didn't quite understand why Dev Patel's character, he can clearly fight, but he's not the best fighter. Well, and I don't know if the purpose of that was so that we can have this awakening where he trains. But then the training felt to me like, do we really need this?
The monkey, it's purely the subtext for the story. But I also felt it'd be so uncomfortable wearing that mask and doing anything physical, much less fighting, because I don't know that you can really see that well.
But we see Tiger put all of his money in a locker in the locker room, and I just thought there's no way that money would be safe there.
Oh no.
And then later on in the film, because the trans people who have helped Dev Patel's character tell him, like, if the people come and take our property, where are we going to go? We have no money. And that's when Dev Patel goes back to fight to win a bunch of money to give them, that he ends up like putting in a backpack and hanging from one of their statues at the temple. But I thought for sure we were going to revisit the money in the locker.
Yeah, but we
don't.
No.
We just see that he has money now because he won a fight. I thought that was interesting. So when Dev Patel's character tries to go to get a job, there's the hotel manager. Her name's Queenie. Mm-hmm. And I actually really enjoyed her character because she's mean and nasty.
She's pretty vile, yeah.
But the way he gets her contact information, or the way he gets in contact with her, is very interesting because he stages this like pickpocketing scenario. But when he meets her, he returns her purse or wallet, and she says, here's some money as a reward, get out of here. And he's like, I don't want your money, I need a job. And she's like, boy, we don't just hire people off the street, you don't even have like a resume. And he shows her his hands, and the palms of his hands are all burned up, and he says they're from like chemical burns, so he'll do the job that no one else will do. But then, of course, the impact of finding out that really his hands are burned because he tried to put out his mother, who was dead and on fire, was so like just out of control. But he gets this job, and then there's the one character,
Alphonso. What's his name? Oh, yeah, that's Alphonso, not Alpha.
Yeah, Alpha is the leader of the trans group. Alphonso is the little guy
played by a guy named Pitobash,
who was kind of like the comic relief.
Kind of.
He was real cute. He also drives like a little scooter he calls Nicki Minaj. Because of the shape of the scooter, like it has big headlights and a big bumper.
She has a nice bumper and big headlights. Yeah.
It's in the trailer. But it's that character who helps Dev Patel's character sort of rise up, because he starts off in the kitchen, works his way up to like a restaurant, and then moves on up to the VIP lounge. And when we get to that damn VIP lounge, we see that they're just instead of like how like at the bar they have like shot
Jello
boys.
shots.
They have cocaine shots.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of powder in those.
Yeah. There was a lot of cocaine on
You know,
him.
wreak havoc on your sinuses. Like,
But Dev's plan is to shoot the police chief, but we see that all the employees have to go through a metal detector. So how does Dev get a gun into the VIP lounge? He trains this little dog every day to come and get food. And then at a point when the dog knows to come back every day, he meets the dog outside of the hotel and ties a gun around its neck. So when the dog sneaks in, Dev is able to get the gun. I thought that was cute, except after Dev gets the gun, we never see the dog again.
that's true.
Which I think is funny for a film that referenced John Wick, that and has a dog in it that helps him complete his mission.
And funny that it's releasing after Dogman.
That it doesn't,
Monkey Man, Dogman?
yeah, that it doesn't, like he never revisits finding the dog.
Yeah.
But another important character that comes up at the end is when Dev first works in the restaurant, there's this like beyond beautiful woman who works as one of the prostitutes. And he witnesses her sort of be like
Handled.
by one of the patrons, and he doesn't like it. And so they have an exchange outside with the dog actually, where she says, stop. She takes a liking to him, but she knows she needs to keep her distance, and they never really connect again. But she tells him like, stop feeding the dog or it'll keep coming back, which is what he wants. But this prostitute makes an appearance at the end.
Oh, yeah. She bashes Queenie's head in, yeah?
Yeah, she kills Queenie, who's about to kill Dev. So I thought that was a cute callback, because we get a scene with her being yelled at by Queenie. Okay, the extended chase sequence after Dev tries to shoot the police chief, but he doesn't kill him. Everyone's chasing him.
And he steals Nicki Minaj.
He steals Nicki Minaj, and I thought it was kind of sweet because Alphonso joins him, but then they hit like a police car, and they're injured. And Alphonso tries to help Dev, but he's like, "I'm sorry, man. Like, we no point in both of us getting arrested." So he scurries off. But then Dev gets arrested, thrown in a paddy wagon, and breaks out of the paddy wagon. And I thought that scene was amazing. Keeps running, and then he gets to the top of a building and gets shot. And that's when he falls into the river.
Well, he falls off the building as if it's a large set of stairs.
I mean, this felt like, I don't know, I almost felt like we were in Gotham City and we were watching like a Batman movie. It was really well done.
It's very well choreographed and impressively staged. The production design is, for a debut, it's really impressive.
Part of that sequence is he goes into a brothel, and the guy who runs the brothel's like, "You brought police to my establishment?" So there's an extended fight sequence with an axe.
An axe and a lot of nose biting.
The nose biting and people getting like hit in the throat. It took my breath away a few times. Okay, one other thing that I felt was confusing related to the plot is the there's clearly some strong messaging about the political and social state in India, but I think I was confused with who this main villain is, what he's running for.
Well, because there's a news reference to his opponent, I believe, as well.
And I was confused by that, and like because like neither of these people seem like they're trying to help the people, really.
No.
Like they're probably both corrupt. So I just, I don't know that I needed all of that. And then the whole trans issue with bringing that up, I felt like that was probably, because then when we actually hear the one candidate talking, they're more about like helping workers, and it just felt like it was trying to do a lot that to me didn't quite land, because I was a little confused.
Yeah, it's broadening the horizon of the narrative, which is funny because there's kind of a lack of characterization, really.
For Dev Patel's character?
For all of them. So it's almost like, I don't know how much we needed to broaden that when we could have better fleshed out some of these characters.
Yeah, I mean, that would probably be my biggest, because there were a lot of flashbacks, and they were very meaningful when it came to like why he, like watching his mom, the scene where we watch his mom get killed, burned alive, and him trying to put her out with his bare hands. I almost feel like we just needed that. And we could have had that in the beginning, because that could have been that could have preceded the scene where he shows his hands to the hotel manager. and says, oh, these are just chemical burns from cleaning products. But as the audience, we know that he went through this traumatic thing.
And that sets up greater, because I think what is happening in the first 45 minutes, there's kind of a lack of tension. And to the audience, that have already clued us into this tension, like, oh, some shit is really going to go down here.
Yes.
And who with?
Right. That would have been enough for me to be like, oh boy, this man's about to blow shit up. But I think because it took, like, we just built up to it, I kind of felt like we get it. Like, your mom died and you want to get revenge on the people responsible. But we get like 6, 7 flashbacks that are like,
Yeah.
okay. But overall, I thought this was very well done.
Yeah, I agree.
What would you give Monkey Man?
3.5.
I would give it 3.5 out of 5. Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.